Over on another post, I received some comments from a reader who calls himself Immigration Facts. I include below the full exchange. Immigration Facts. The extent to which people are unknowingly/unreflectively influenced by others is grossly underestimated. We like to pretend that we've come to our conclusions based on evidence and informed opinion, but that's BS, mostly. We are influenced by what we are exposed to. Period. Yes, we can reject a minority of things we're exposed to based on previous experience and reflection, but we pretend we do this much more than we actually do. We're a blank slate, and we are mostly not in control of the quill. We don't realize this because of our myth of free will, which is a lie, but a lie nearly everyone in the West believes in. I replied, if you have no free will, what force compelled you to comment? Immigration Facts. Perhaps an unfree will. Why must it be free? Why not partially or full determined? I don't like analytical philosophy because it's generally pointless, but in this case, using Occam's razor, can't I just say something compelled me, or there was some psychological need that was fulfilled by me writing? Does a thought come when I will it, or does a thought come when it does, and I may or may not reflect on it? You don't need free will to explain human behaviour. We are animals after all, and I'd argue that the concept of free will leads to an erroneous understanding of human behaviour. Some cultures don't have the concept of free will as we understand it, and they function just fine. Unquote. Blank state, unfree will, we are animals after all? No, none of these things are true. People are born ignorant. We do not possess knowledge. However, we do possess instincts and preferences. One thing I've always found interesting is how babies react to men. Some babies love men, and others find them the scariest creatures in existence. No knowledge, maybe instinct, but definitely a preference. If babies have a preference, how can they be blank slates? They cannot be. It's simply wrong. I would go so far as to say it's absurd. Now, I agree that people are much more influenced than they think. They take more notice of popular opinion, personal opinion, and advertising than they think. But there is a very good reason for people to do that. In most cases, it helps them to fit in, and it normally has no cost. It is a sort of stereotyping, a shorthand that even when wrong is rarely disastrously wrong. However, that does not mean that every action is done without conscious thought. If that were true, then individuals could not operate as individuals. But people do. However, if we have no free will, then how do we think and how do we carry out actions? The argument made here is a good one, that we do not have full control of our faculties, which is true. That's why it's good. However, it has been taken to its illogical conclusion. We are biological creatures. We have instincts that we do not need to think about to carry out. It's hardwired into us, an automatic response. If you've ever fallen over, you will have experienced this. If you've ever been tongue-tied, then you would know that not everything is automatic. Many of the things that we do in life need both thinking and action. It's not enough to know what to say, you also have to say it. Sometimes we think thoughts that we don't like, or we act in ways that aren't the real us. Why don't we do that all the time? If we have no free will, how do we have self-control? If we have no free will, how can there be a real us? If we have an unfree will or a partial will, does that mean that we are automatons? Or that some other force or will controls us? That there are limits to free will is true. That we are not always in total control is also true. But to think that we have little to no control is not true. Who robbed the bank? Me with my free will or me with my unfree will? That's the argument of children and the guilty. Are people animals? We are certainly biological, and we have much more in common with animals. We share 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees. We also share 56% of our DNA with fruit flies. In other words, DNA, the basic building blocks of life, are really basic. However, it's not the things that make us similar that define us, but the thing that makes us different. Did you know that if a human child 9 years of age was the oldest human on Earth, that child would be the most intelligent creature on the planet? We are much more complex than animals. We are, even in a biological sense, so much more complicated than them that we are unique. Maybe in the universe there are other creatures as intelligent or even more intelligent than us. Unless they are also human, then we would remain unique. Our ability to solve problems, to make and use tools, to think, to build societies, cultures, and civilizations, to know that the future is real and not simply another day. To call humans animals is to misunderstand both animals and humans. I would also add something that history has taught. When people begin to think that people are animals, then people start being treated as animals. We treat animals as animals because that is their nature, but it's not ours. I hope Immigration Fact does not feel picked on. I wanted to give a more complete answer than a blog comment can make.